Where did the dragons come from, and did they exist before Valyria? Septim Bart speculated that the blood mages of Valyria used wyvern stock to create dragons, but Maester Vatnian believed there was evidence of dragons in Westeros before Valyria rose to power. So who was right? Did Valyrian blood mages create dragons, or did dragons exist before Valyria? One sign of dragons is fused black stone. It is widely believed that the Dragon Lords of Valyria used dragon flame to turn stone to liquid so that they could shape it as they deemed fit. When it fused, the stone was harder than iron, steel, or granite. So dragons were used to create fused black stone, which is sometimes referred to as fused black dragonstone. One example is the Castle of Dragonstone on the island known as Dragonstone. Two other examples are the inner walls of Tyrosh and the black walls of Volantis. They are both made out of fused black dragonstone, and it makes sense. Dragonstone is very strong, and Tyrosh and Volantis both began as military outposts for the Valyrian freehold. The Valyrians also erected a fort of dragonstone on the island of Noth, but none of those speak to the question at hand. Did dragons exist before Valyria? That leads us to the 5 forts of ET. The 5 forts are massive. Their walls consist of single slabs of fused black stone that resembles certain Valyrian citadels in the west. But the 5 forts were not built by Valyrians. After all, they are old, very old. The 5 forts predate the freehold's rise. So the 5 forts are not proof, but they are a major clue that dragons existed before Valyria. So it begs the question, where did dragons come from? Possibly Asshai. Asshai is built entirely of blackstone. Halls, hovels, temples, palaces, streets, walls, bazaars. All of it. It's all blackstone. Moreover, there are a lot of tales in Asshai, and some of those tales refer specifically to dragons. According to ancient text, dragons first came from the shadow. According to these ancient Asshai histories, dragons were tamed by a people of the shadow so ancient they had no name. Those people then brought dragons to Valyria, and they taught the Valyrians their arts. So long story short, blackstone appears to be the result of dragons. The 5 forts of ET are made of blackstone, and the 5 forts were around before the rise of Valyria. Therefore, dragons probably existed before Valyria. As to where they came from, no one knows for sure, but possibly Asshai by the shadow. Now, let's take a look at Westeros. The foundation of the High Tower in Old Town is old, very old, and it is made of fused black stone. But the architecture of the High Tower is very different from Valyrian architecture. So the foundation of the High Tower appears to have been made by dragons, but not Valyrian dragons. Maester Theron pointed out that the black stone of the High Tower is similar to the black stone of the Sea Stone chair up on the Iron Islands. Legend has it that the first men had found the Sea Stone chair there when they first came to the Iron Islands. So, if true, the Sea Stone chair predates the coming of the first men. So, where did the Ironborn come from? Archmaester Herrig once believed that the ancestors of the Ironborn came from some unknown land west of the Sunset Sea. Archmaester Herrig eventually dismissed that idea, so other maesters dismissed it as well. But Archmaester Herrig may have been right. The Ironborn didn't come from the ocean, at least not literally. They aren't fish, they're humans. But an argument can be made that the Ironborn's ancestors came from the sea, by boat, or possibly even by dragon. We'd be remiss not to mention Naga. In the Age of Heroes, the legends say the Ironborn were ruled by a mighty monarch known simply as the Grey King. The Grey King supposedly slew Naga, largest of the sea dragons. The Grey King then made a throne from Naga's jaws. Unfortunately, that was a long, long time ago. Naga's jaws no longer exist, so no one knows if the legend of Naga is true. But there is a hill on Old Wick called Naga's Hill, and there are petrified bones of a gigantic sea creature there. In theory, those bones might be the remains of a dragon. At the end of the day, the Sea Stone chair and the foundation of the High Tower raise more questions than answers. But the 5 forts are enough to answer the question at hand. Did dragons exist before Valyria? Probably. So Valyrians like to think of themselves as dragons, and they like to think of themselves as special. But were they? No. They're frauds.